still more seats up front. Don't be shy. All right, well, at this time, we're going to start a program this evening. I want to thank each and every one of you, for your participation, for you being here, for you showing up, being a part of this evening, celebrating our annual meeting. I do appreciate each and every one of you for what you do for our community. I want to thank those that are partners, that have been there for us, have provided for us to help our organization to be what it is today. I thank you, for believing in us and our mission and what we do and what we've accomplished over the years. We could not have done it without you. And to provide the services that we do, and we thank you for all, because of you see the expansion of our organization, and that is a contribute to all of us for our hard work and what we do here with the board and the staff. We do thank you. We welcome you this evening, and thank you so much for being here and being a part of us. And without further ado, it's very hard, to stand here, because it just gives me such great joy in knowing that there's so much that has been done. Our executive director over the years have put so much hard work in building our organization, and bringing it today to what it is. And we thank him very much for his endless and tireless hours, and he's committed to this organization, his staff as well, and the board. We want to present to you now our executive director, Jim Paley.
Thanks, Virginia. As Virginia was talking about the growth of the expansion of the offices, I was thinking about how we really have reacted to the conditions in the housing market. Our expansion of the Home Ownership Center wasn't because we wanted to grow just for the sake of growing. It was because we had home buyers who were people who were looking to buy homes, and people who owned homes who were losing their homes in foreclosure. And as a mission-driven organization, we really felt we had no choice but to hire the staff to make it possible to serve the needs of the community. And in today's market, with foreclosed properties all around us, and trying to make a significant impact on the blocks where we're working, we are redoubling our efforts and taking more risks in buying houses, acquiring them so that we can rehab them, make them into home ownership opportunities for first-time home buyers. But to do that, it does require a change in the whole perceptions of neighborhoods, so that people will want to live in neighborhoods where there are foreclosed houses all over. If you take a look at the foreclosure statistics in New Haven, you'll see that there are certain areas that have far more foreclosures than others. And where we've been targeting our activities recently, there is a real disproportionate number of the foreclosures. So we've reacted to the needs of the community, have tried to be responsive. And I really want to thank the board, the staff, and everybody who's helped to make this organization grow and to be as successful as we've been over the years in being able to not only restore and rehabilitate houses, but also to educate home buyers and to help home buyers who are in trouble. All of those things put together really form what Neighborhood Housing Services of New Haven is. I wanted to just talk a little bit, very briefly, about the focus of tonight's program, and that is that we have 3 guest speakers on our agenda who are all involved in community. And we thought that the real thrust of this program should be community engagement. It's been the way in which our organization has directed our attentions in the neighborhood. We recognize that it's not just enough to rehab a house. It's not just enough to get a homeowner on a block. It's not just enough to get the community organized. You need all 3 of those things to present the proper formula for success. And those 3 things form what we've come to refer to as our revitalization demonstration project. We're focusing our attentions in very small areas, micro neighborhoods, and trying to be able to get all 3 of those forces in place. The rehabilitation of the houses, homeowners living in those houses on those blocks, and also the community actively involved in looking out for neighbors and making sure that the perception of the neighborhood is changing. Obviously, we also need people's support, and this isn't a major fundraising event, but I just would like to mention the fact that the Community Foundation has a Give Greater opportunity for people. And apparently it's a new kickoff that's going to be starting in November. And we want to be able to encourage people for the first three organizations that attract $50 contributions, there'll be a cash prize, if you will, or an award from the Community Foundation. So if you've been waiting to make your contribution to Neighborhood Housing Services, your wait is over. This is the time to be able to do that. And after the program, you can ask some of us for detailed information about how to do that. I want to again thank my staff for presenting this. Julie Trachtenberg did an outstanding job in putting together this annual meeting, and I want to give her a round of applause. She was assisted ably by the rest of the staff and Emily Rourke, one of our VISTA members, who's also been very helpful. And Emily, we'd like to give you a little round of applause. I've been here a long time, and it staggers my imagination as to how fast the time goes. But I wanted to pay special recognition. One of our staff members since the last meeting has had his 15th anniversary at NHS come and go, and I'd like to be able to recognize Henry Dina for everything that he has brought to our Julie asked me before, she said, you told Henry that we were going to honor him, and I said, well, no. She said, well, how does he deal with surprises? And I said, well, if it's a surprise, I said he's pretty good at that. So so I figured he's probably been too busy to read the program as he's looking at it now that he was going to be awarded. And I promise, Henry, you'll only have to say something if you wish, but please come up so that we can all publicly thank you. I just wanted to... Just this evening, earlier today, less than 15 minutes ago, I was asked about the design of all of this campus and the expansion of the office space that's gone first from our house. When Henry started, we were on the first floor of 333 Sherman Avenue. We had tenants upstairs. We then expanded up to the second floor. We expanded into the carriage house area over there. And then when we had a larger staff, we needed more space. Henry's design and vision really created the Home Improvement and Energy Conservation Lab that's on your right, my left, and then the new Home Ownership Center building, which is on your left, my right. So I have to say that or I'll forget which direction is which. But in any case, so I was asked, well, who were the architects who did this? And we hold architects in very high esteem, but really the design of all of this was Henry's doing. And as I said in the little brief blurb that I'd written about Henry, he's had the vision to transform some of these houses that have been cut into, as I use the word, a warren of little rooms and little apartments that had people crammed in to maximize the rent rolls for absentee owners, and creating livable spaces that really work for the houses which we're rehabilitating. And to do all of that with energy conservation and green building techniques and historic preservation, it's just been an honor to have Henry part of our staff and everything that he's brought to us. And Henry, we have a little token of our appreciation for you. So that's for you, and that's from all of us, and that's for your years of service at NHS. So thank you.
Well, this truly was a surprise. I did not look at the program. I didn't know there was a program. Until a few minutes ago, Julie said, have you looked at the program? And I said, no, should I leave? But let's put this all in perspective. This is all happening in an environment with tremendous amount of support from the top, the true visionary of NHS, Jim Paley. Okay, Jim creates the environment where all of this can happen. The financing materializes to do these things, and the professional support is there, and it also happens because of all the support around me. And I want to thank and recognize my excellent staff people who are with me. Kathy Fay, are you in the room? Kathy participated in a very heartfelt and direct way in the planning of our lab building here and our other facility improvements. She's currently involved in the LEED certification process for this building. And I'd also like to thank Linda Papa. Linda, are you here? Part of the rehab staff for 4 years, nearly 4 years. It seems like 4 years. And Sarah Jameson, who is coordinating and organizing and devising our post-graduate program, our education component of the rehab department. Our VISTA architectural intern, assistant volunteer, Jeff Kruth. Jeff, are you here? And Christian Gagnon, who I have not seen this evening, but I hope was here somewhere. Christian is also an architect, young architect who has been volunteering with us for the recent past, and hopefully will be with us for a while. It's really an environment where passionate people can flourish, and I find myself in the midst of not only the passionate, hardworking people in my department, but also the rest of the staff in this organization who I embrace heartily and enjoy seeing and working with every day. And this is truly the opportunity of a lifetime. And I may end up spending a lifetime here. Every day presents us with a new opportunity to make a difference in our city here and for people actually beyond our borders. So thanks to everyone who has contributed to NHS in some supportive way. You have been a part of what has made this possible, and each one of us on staff have just been a piece of the action. And thank you.
If the whole staff could just could rise so that we could all acknowledge you, the counselors, the home ownership center, the administrative staff, my office, Stephen, everybody, just staff, if you could rise and I could lift, if we could all acknowledge people. Thank you all so much. Our first guest speaker, Mike Moran, has been with Yale for quite a number of years, and Mike is really the face of Yale in the community. And I really appreciate the partnerships that we've been able to work. Since Mike has started in his position, I believe that Yale's commitment to involvement in the community has been greatly increased, and we certainly value Yale's cooperation, partnership, and involvement in the community. So, Mike.
Thank you very much. As my biography notes, a rather non-traditional little sketch, the real claim to fame I have is the Jim Paley as Jim Paley, not NHS was my landlord in the mid-1990s. And we both survived to tell the tale. I want to just reflect a little bit on 21 years, and I was planning to do that anyway, but when I pulled into Bill Plackey's new bank parking lot, I was reminded that 20 years ago to the day, I would have been on this block. I would have been at a campaign headquarters, some of you would have been with me, in a mayoral election, and I was standing for election successfully, as it turned out, for alderman. For the first of 2 terms, I served on the New Haven Board of Aldermen. And I was also entering the Yale Divinity School. And I did a much better job at homiletics than theology, which is why I pursued the professional path I have, a rather profane rather than sacred one. But I think about, as I'm in this tent, feels a little bit like a revival. And so, while Jesuit educated and Puritan, I guess, with the Yale, I think some about a revival, and this place really is a place of revival. And so my text is, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And in those early 90s, there was plenty of evidence and plenty of things seen that were not so good. Times are not perfect now, and we all know and have been touched in our own ways by different troubles recently or not that long ago. But all of us can recall a time when there was automatic gunfire on the courthouse steps in broad daylight, when crime was truly out of control everywhere, and when things, I think it's not too strong to say, were fairly hopeless. That really is true. And it was sort of, last one here, turn out the lights kind of time. Fast forward to where we are now. Tom Condon, writing in the Hartford Courant back in April, driving down 91, I saw construction cranes. Didn't anyone tell New Haven that we're in the midst of the worst recession since the Great Depression? Look at Bloomberg News 2 weeks ago. What apartment market in the country has the lowest vacancy rate? What's the healthiest rental market in the United States of America? New Haven, Connecticut. Look at Daily Beast yesterday. We moved up 4 points. We're now the second smartest city in the country. Daily Beast a couple weeks ago had us one of 20 recession-proof cities in the country. That may work better. And on and on and on. And things are not perfect, but there is no doubt that we have been truly enjoying a renaissance, a true revival. And we can tell it now better than we could have 3 years ago. 3 years ago, when money was flowing freely, too freely as it turns out, all around the country, all around the world, anybody could do well. It is in tough times that we really see how strong we are, and the resilience of our community and its economy, and the fact that we are a place of hope and progress, measured in any number of ways, tangible and intangible, says a lot. That we are in a place where there's plenty of evidence for that hope that had existed in things unseen. Why has that happened? I'd offer a couple thoughts, and it really is reflected in the theme of having 3 partners join with this 4th fabulous partner in a tent full of so many people, each of whom are multifaceted, and together we create an extraordinary mosaic of people and backgrounds and skills and talents and neighborhoods. And it really is because we've made a fundamental choice. We'll work together. It's common sense. It doesn't always happen, it turns out. We humans have a great capacity not to work with one another, to talk about each other and talk at each other rather than talking with each other. And I really think in our town, thanks to leadership on a big level, middle level, small level, all around, up and down and across, it doesn't mean we agree all the time, and it doesn't mean that all the problems have been solved, but we talk with each other. You can see that in the relationship of my university in our hometown. To say, just because there was a script that took hold for a couple decades in the 20th century, that it was one of either division, inaction, or conflict, doesn't mean that that has to be the script. Maybe the script that our forebears wrote, John Davenport, who wanted a college in his town in 1645, the New Haven residents who in 1716 paid 2,000 pounds to steal a college from Saybrook, Connecticut, and gave it some land so it could grow. Maybe the script that was the script for 200 years of working together was one that wasn't so out of date. So there had been one for a couple decades that was one of conflict and division. That has been expressed in so many ways, big and small. One that we're very proud of, that is a collaborative effort, university resources and people, but only possible because of the work of groups like NHS, groups like the Community Loan Fund, various lawyers, realtors, developers, the Yale Homebuyer Program. We will soon have Homebuyer 1000. There are many of those homebuyers. The largest such program by any nonprofit institution anywhere on the planet. And we're very happy that it's been an inspiration that, for example, the Mary Wade Home is doing in Fairhaven as part of the fabulous Chatham Square Renaissance. So that's one example, not possible, but for lots of people being involved, resources for sure, but lots of intangible effort by groups including neighborhood housing services. You can see the working together in the script being thrown out on my campus between management and labor that said, wait a minute, you know, it actually hurts if we just beat each other on the head. Maybe there's another way. Maybe we don't have to have a script that says we don't talk, we let grievances accumulate, we strike, we shout at each other, we settle, we stop talking, we accumulate, on and on and on. Maybe we can sit down day in and day out. So it wasn't surprising that today, as in many days in my office, leaders of management, leaders of labor were sitting down together. Again, not necessarily agreeing on every jot and tittle, but sweating things as they go along. It can be seen in the New Haven Public Schools and the City Hall working with charters and saying, rather than talking about and at each other, maybe we can learn from each other. It can be seen in so many ways all around. And it is, I think, not too much of a stretch to say that groups like NHS and, frankly, NHS itself have led the way. Because in all of those times of hopelessness 2 decades ago, who kept the faith? You kept the faith. People in this room kept the faith. Residents of NHS, a resident-led organization, the staff of NHS kept the faith and showed by the work you did, which day in and day out may not have been that visible to the organization or to the community as a whole, but week by week, maybe, month by month, probably, year by year, for sure. To see the kind of difference that this place on Sherman Avenue itself represents certainly shows that when you work together, sweat the details, figure out what do we have in common, bring the talents and skills together, some truly extraordinary things can happen. So you really have been the exemplar and the example that have helped create this now very catching and I think unstoppable renaissance that we're enjoying, that we can see its strength amidst these downtimes, poised as the national economy has thawed and begins to recover to get back on a really incredible trajectory. All the problems are not solved. We all know that, and certainly everyone in this room knows that better than most people. Scale, though, is to our advantage. While in percentage terms, some of the issues we confront, be they educational, housing, or otherwise, the percentages aren't always that great. But I don't know about you, when I go to the bank, I don't deposit a percentage. I don't live in percentages. I live in real people, real numbers. We can do more here, and we can get it done. I love LA, I visit there. If someone were to say, how do you help get every child in the LA Unified School District believing that he or she can and will go to college, I don't know how you do that. This community can take that as a challenge and do it. You have shown in what you're doing now with the micro neighborhoods, what Lee and the foundation are doing in Chatham Square and West River with neighbors. This is a doable task in a community of our scale with the outsized resources we have represented here institutionally, politically, nonprofits, all kinds of people. We can do this. And so I just close with 2 tributes, if I might, because all of these things are done not by ideas or by nonprofit organizations or 990s or boards of directors. It's individual people who take the leadership and reach out to other individuals. And there's 2 from our family at Yale who I think give me hope for sure. One who passed away earlier this year, Bill Carney, who many in this room knew, fabulous man, one of the truly great human beings ever, grew up and died on Pearl Street, inherited the house that his mother, that he had grown up in, and was the reason that the Yale Homebuyer Program succeeded the way it succeeded. If he was with us, just as he was last year or the year before, he would have been here. He would have been somewhere in the back, and the next day he would have said to me, Mike, why did you have to recognize me? Because he never saw it public recognition. He actually actively avoided public recognition. His funeral, and some of you may have been there, was not publicized. His family's all like this too. There was not big notice in the paper. It was not broadly. And I said to the priests at St. Stan's afterwards, may we all live such a life, because they ran out of communion and had to go get a stock of communion from the back, because so many people loved this man. And they loved him because he walked the walk. He went the extra mile, as NHS does, to help people who were first-time home buyers, who may have had some modest credit problem, who just thought this was all too much. He was there, and there could mean Saturday at 8 p.m., Monday at 7 a.m., anytime. The other person is a younger person who gives me hope, and who I also want to thank NHS for your incredible care and support. Victor Zhao, who's one of our President's Public Service Fellows who's here. We have had students who've worked full-time in the summer through the Yale President's Public Service Fellowship. That was one of the first two things. Rick Levin, out of the gate, when he became president, established the Homebuyer Program to work with faculty and staff in the President's Public Service Fellowship to support students working with nonprofits. I can say we have had the best-in-class experience of our students working and learning from NHS, and we've had such good feedback from NHS. And I know Victor has taken much from his work here, contributed much, and his efforts here give me hope. NHS is the real deal. Back in '89, when I was elected alderman and things were a little bit hopeless all around, Jim knows this story. I sat on the committee that oversaw the Community Development Block Grant, and organizations would come, and they'd have about this much text in their application, and then it would say, we would like $100,000. And they got $100,000. Thankfully, this doesn't happen anymore, but it was sort of who knew who, and it just wasn't, there was more money, and so it was just gonna. And there were a couple of organizations, truly, I think there were two, one of which was NHS, which would come with this really thick, detailed application that said, we're going to spend $5 on this, $7.50 on this, $12.20 on this, and you know what? What did they do? They did that. The next year they'd come back and they said, remember we were here last year, and this is what we said we'd do, this is what we did. And they got less than anybody else. And who's still around? And who actually produced? So you all give me great hope and great confidence, and I'll close in this revival tent, inspired 21 years later for what lies ahead, which I think is even more great things for this organization and its people, and because of that for our community. Behold, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us run the race that is set before us, and let us do it with courage and conviction. Amen. Amen.
Next speaker, I just wanted to thank our sponsors for this event. New Alliance Bank, I know Andy Biz and Paul McCraven are here, and one of the gentlemen who's name I've forgotten, but thank you so much as the lead sponsor, and also Bank of America and Citizens Bank. Carol Heller is here, Lori Linfors is here. Thank you all so much for helping and making this possible. We also have sponsorship levels from Yale New Haven Hospital and Hospital of St. Rayfield, and I don't think that there are any representatives there, although Chris Prokop is with the Yale Health, the Lead Paint Center. There you are. Good. Thank you so much. Lee Cruz has been the sort of the face of the community for the Community Foundation for several years. I've known Lee from before that, when he was doing a lot of community outreach. And one of the things that has always impressed me about Lee is his passion for what he does. There are few people I can point to who have the same kind of passion, commitment, and determination to really work in the communities and to put his heart and soul in making communities better places in which people can live. So, Lee, if you'd like to come up and say a few words, we'd love to hear from you.
Wow. It seems to me almost like Michael and I must have coordinated this, because I'm actually going to talk to you about some really sacred stories but they're not sacred from the Bible. They're our sacred stories. So, but what I want to do is, I want to first start with making a series of assertions, and then I'm going to follow them up with stories, and you'll see how they connect. So, I would assert to you that community is advanced by leaders with a commitment to personal responsibility and to action with others for greater good. That personal responsibility underlies the ability to be truly autonomous and at the same time truly be a community. That the people who make a difference in community struggle of their own volition. Great challenges bring forth in them great determination. Leaders in community and elsewhere are discovered, leaders are developed, and leaders are inspired by the example of others. So what do I mean by this? Let me give you some examples. Community was advanced in a neighborhood in New Haven by Barbara, a resident, a receptionist at a local law firm. She lived in the neighborhood for 35 years and stood up at a meeting one night and declared her intention to walk around the park daily and asked her neighbors to join her. Through this action, she met her neighbors. Together, they reduced prostitution to zero, non-existent, doesn't exist anymore, in the park. More recently, other residents in our area have been inspired and have initiated exercise boot camps and even a yoga class at the local housing authority. And it started because of Barbara standing up and saying, why don't we just walk around the park? Community leadership is apparent in the work of a woman whose name is Gerda. Gerda was born in Haiti. She's the mother of 3 teenagers. She initiated a door-to-door campaign to raise funds for a traffic study in the neighborhood. A traffic study. She raised $400 going door to door. She inspired Fereshta, who gave $1,000. Who inspired these women to do this? Another local mom, Erin, a resident activist and a biker. She identified residents concerned with the impact that cars have in the neighborhood. She challenged the city to match the money that was raised by the residents and matched by the engineer, a $10,000 reduction in the price of doing a traffic study in the neighborhood. Here's the kicker. 3 years later, this year, the city of New Haven got a $477,000 grant from the U.S. Department of Transportation, and the basis of that grant was the traffic study for which Gerda went door to door asking people to donate $1 or $5. Community leadership is exemplified by Joan, another anonymous person in the neighborhood. Joan organized 40 residents to do a cleanup in the park and 3 local gardens. Somewhere over the night between the cleanup and the next morning, some idiot in the neighborhood took it upon himself to rip open the bags and just spread the leaves out. You would think that this would be disheartening to the community, but some anonymous person, or 2 or 3, actually came at night with bags and put all the leaves back in the bags. And the next morning they were there for the city to take them away. Community is exemplified by the 20 people that showed up when Charisse took ownership of her house in the neighborhood. She's a resident that started out in a low-income housing project and became a homeowner and rented to her dad, her second unit in her house. Community philanthropy, which is the business that I'm in, is inspired by people like this. Richard and Paula, who don't live in the city of New Haven, but are associated with the foundation, have been donating $5,000 a year to a neighborhood that they didn't grow up in it, they didn't know the neighborhood. They were just inspired by these people doing this work in just one neighborhood. So again, I'm going to go back to what I started with and listen again. Communities advance by leaders with a commitment to personal responsibility and to action with others for the greater good. Personal responsibility underlies the ability to be autonomous, and to be community. People who make a difference struggle of their own volition. Great challenges bring forth in them great determination. Leaders are discovered, leaders are developed, and leaders are inspired by the example set by others. Where are you leading, and how are you leading? That's the question I want to leave you with. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Lee. We certainly relate to the things and the anecdotes that you expressed. Some of us just went to the Community Leadership Institute that was sponsored by NeighborWorks America. A number of people who were there are here tonight, and hopefully we came back with the same inspiration, and your words really hold true. Thank you so much. Eric Johnson is the relatively new Executive Director of the Livable City Initiative. Eric is from New Haven and brings to his position, in my opinion, a real passion for neighborhood revitalization. He is bright, he's energetic, he's committed, and we are really fortunate to consider Livable City Initiative under Eric's leadership to be a true partner in our efforts to revitalize the community. So Eric, would you come up and say a few words, please?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
First of all, I'd like to bring welcome on behalf of the Mayor John Stefano and my boss Kelly Murphy, and to congratulate this organization for 31 years of service. I think any business needs to celebrate that today, and despite what the moniker says, nonprofit, housing development is a business, and a labor and a love, and the city appreciates all of your service and all the impact you've made, not just in the neighborhoods, but in the individuals' lives who you've changed through the housing that you've helped produce. So thank you for that. Well, we started with Michael, and I think he is right that this is like a tent revival, but I'm not sure if I've got my preacher's hat today. And Lee was very eloquent in his speaking of stories in terms of really how what we do and how what you do really speaks to how it affects people's lives. And I think that's meaningful. I guess kind of to bring it home, I think I want to capture a little bit of Michael and a little bit of Lee and say, you know what, we should be proud that we live in New Haven. We should be proud that we work in New Haven, because right now we got a lot more going on than a lot of other places, not just in this country, but in this world. So while we live in dire times, we live in fortunate times. Fortunate not for the things that have been done and that are being in the process of being completed, but because we have talent, resources, and individuals with vision in our communities and in our neighborhoods that will bring a spirit of implementation and promise for better things. So, you know, we are fortunate. In my role as LCI director, my focus is on neighborhoods. I think we've done a great job of remaking our downtown. I think we have institutional partners that are doing a great job of creating great and interesting spaces and are elevating the dialogue and the commitment about excellence and having good resources and good venues and good experiences in our city. The challenge we have is, how do we make more great neighborhoods? And I think working with neighborhood housing services and the institutions and the banks and Yale and the city is how we take the next step to arm our people, our residents, our neighbors, our friends, our loved ones with the opportunity to have a community and a housing stock that we are truly happy with, that is safe, that is green, that is multi-generational, that brings forth that long-standing change that everyone knows we need to have great neighborhoods. I think what Neighborhood Housing Services does today, probably better than most people in the city, is as that combination of creating a good product with also creating services that allow people to enjoy and stay in that good product. You know, just because you build a home doesn't mean that people know how to stay there. So just as we celebrate the fact that they've been here for 31 years, and I celebrate that they're doing things in New Hallville and off of Greenwich Avenue, 2 places where I lived and grew up, and I think that's important. The measure of community is not just the fact that you got there, but teaching people how to stay there. And I think our impact collectively is not just to create great spaces, but to create great communities. And we will only be able to do that with good partners. So my job as LCI director is to make sure that we have more great neighborhoods. And I look forward to working in partnership with Neighborhood Housing Service, Jim Paley, and a lot of the other people in this room to make sure that we have those great neighborhoods, because we're a city that is thriving. We just don't always realize it. So thank you very much for your time, and thank you for your organization's success.
I know that one of our board members wanted to come up and say a few words. I don't know, is George Rose around to say a few words if he wishes? Are you interested in coming up and saying a few words? George and I had the pleasure of being together in Louisville for 4 days and getting to know each other pretty well, so it's really a pleasure to have him. He's a longtime neighborhood resident and has more energy than most people have his age.
3 weeks I'll be 81 years old. Before I came to this meeting, I went jogging. And I've seen the gentleman from City Hall jogging with that also. But I have a commitment to the community. I bought a house on Winthrop Avenue about 50 years ago.
A little louder, George.
And the firm I worked for moved me to Washington, D.C. And I came back here 10 years ago, and I was culturally shocked at what I had seen on my block. So I took the initiative to get out there and do something. And I believe you inspire people by example, not by talking. And the other day, with all the leaves before the last trash pickup, I was out there raking the leaves, and a gentleman came who had just got out of prison after serving 5 years for killing a man. So we got in a long conversation. I said to him, I said, I have another rake in the garage. Won't you take that rake, go down to Percival Street, and meet me coming from Winthrop Avenue? It worked out beautifully. Got the whole street, all the leaves off the sidewalks in front of the people's house that don't clean up, out there for the sweeper to pick up. Also, you know, there's a law against loud music. And they have loud music, and all I have to do is look, and they cut it off. And if someone gonna throw some trash on the street, they see me, they won't do it, they know I'm gonna say something. I don't like loitering. I told the drug pushers, if I see you, I'm gonna call the police. I said, I'm not a snitcher, and you haven't registered on a spiel on me about how I feel. The police said, George, don't you do that. This guy's a kid. I said, I've lived 80 years. I've been in the war. I spent 19 months in Korea. I really don't have no fear. And they all know that. So I've been very effective, by example, getting people to participate and do what they're supposed to do and try and help keep the community clean. And not only that, since I've been with the NHS on the board, I don't just be on the board just sitting here. I get flyers from Louisville cities also, and take around and put on people's doors. I put my number on, they can call me if I can help explain them how to go about doing it. And I talk to them, I said, you have to have 3 things: a good credit report, you have to have patience, and deal with a lot of paperwork, because it will get you some assistance. And I'm going to think, where's the gentleman who lived in the cities? He didn't leave, did he? I got a grant from them to do some work on my house, because while it was rented out, the people really destroyed the place. I had to put on new roof, siding, new porch, new bathroom. They took the stalls out of the bathroom and took showers and ruined the whole inside of the building. So someone said to me, you going to buy some more houses? I said, at my age, I don't never want to have another house under my umbrella. But ladies and gentlemen, it is being a part of the community and committing yourself for change. and you do it by example, not by talking. Thank you very much.
It's hard to keep up with him. Tremendous energy, a tremendous resident, a tremendous asset to the community. We have one order of business. We have members of our board of directors whose terms are up and are up for re-election, and that has to be done at our annual meeting. And Celeste has offered to stand in for the chair of our nominating committee, Carol Anastasio, who couldn't make it tonight. But Celeste is going to read the names of those people who are up for re-election. Sure, why not?
Okay, the nominating committee is recommending these people for your approval. Brenda Jennings, Tanya Smith, Virginia Stevenson, Celeste Suggs, David White Jr., Andrew Viz, Kevin Moran, and Peter Mosbacher.
Yeah. And there's one proviso with Peters that we have to mention. It's subject to...
Oh, subject to his Webster Bank's approval. Also Gil Hawkins and Chris Raffone.
Okay. We need a motion to approve that slate of directors.
I make a motion that you approve.
George, thank you. Is there a second?
Second. Any discussion?
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Everybody here is a member of the corporation by being here. We define it that way. So moved. Thank you very much, Celeste. Excellent job. Thank you. Virginia, do you want concluding remarks? I'll just say something, and Virginia, if you want to add in and chime in, you may. It's been great having everybody here. It's wonderful to be able to celebrate with friends, supporters, people we've known for a long time, and people who we're just getting to meet. It's really great to be working here, and I take great pleasure in all the accomplishments. I really credit the staff, the board, and everybody here for making all of this possible. So thank you so much for coming. Virginia, did you want to say anything else?
Yes.
Good. Okay, so Virginia will have the final say, and then please continue to enjoy the dessert, the refreshments, and whatever else is still around.
I just wanted, to thank those of you, our speakers this evening, to come forth, and the comments that you made, really inspires me, inspires the organization for all the work that we do, and encouraging one another and appreciating one another is what it's all about. That we can continue to carry, all that we do forward in the future, that we can do a better job, and with your support. And I just thank all of the stories, because it really gives me great joy when I do hear them, and appreciation how, people recognize what we do, and we appreciate everything that has been said this evening. Enjoy the best of the food that's next door, and we can continue to socialize. We do have a little board meeting that we will have. Excuse us as we, carry on our business, but you're welcome to go next door. Thank you and have a good evening.
Why don't the NHS board members just meet up here for a few moments, and then